Election Day next Tuesday, June 23rd. Joining us to discuss the very latest are political strategist Trip Yang and a professor at the University of Mount St. Vincent, that'd be J.C. Polanco. Thank you both for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
So Trip, before we start this first topic, we should disclose your agency acted as a strategist on the Dan Goldman campaign in New York 10, correct?
Yes.
All right,
yep.
Business out of the way. Let's talk about the New York 10 race. We have former comptroller Brad Lander. We have Congressman Dan Goldman. J.C., let's start with you. Tell me what you're thinking heading into the final days of this race, because the only polling has made it look like it's not particularly close at this point.
Well, I just hope it's an outlier. Look, you go to the dictionary and you look up superstar Democrat, and you open it up, and there's a picture of Dan Goldman there. Strong Democrat, progressive Democrat, stood up to ICE, led the impeachment trials against former President Trump. What's his biggest sin as of today? Supporting a fantastic state senator in Zelnor Myrie for mayor, not the mayor Mamdani. And because of that, he has a primary from the left. We're watching what I think is a cult of personality in that race. No reason in the world why this is even happening. It's going to be a tough one if you look at the polling, especially the Emerson polling you came out with last month. It showed it as if it was a 30-point race. I highly doubt that's going to be the case. But my goodness, talk about the power of endorsement today.
Trip, it was a very feisty debate just a couple of days ago right here on Pix 11, where Goldman was coming after Lander pretty hard, trying to refer to him as the rookie and question his experience, even though he has been in elected politics in the town for quite some time. Your thoughts as we head into the closing days?
Well, I will say that federal office is a little bit different from state and city office. There are a few members of Congress, and look, I happen to know both candidates. I live in the district, but there are a few members of Congress more effective than Dan Goldman when it comes to monitoring, holding ICE accountable, reining in the abuses of ICE. The work that his office has done, just making sure, that the abuses of ICE can be reined in, freeing detained migrants held there illegally. It's around 40 migrants freed because of the congressman's office. These are, this is a real record of accomplishment right here.
Let's move on to the race that we weren't sure would be a race when this all started. Congressman Adriano Espaillat in New York 13, another challenger, Democratic Socialist, backed by Mayor Mamdani. J.C. mentioned already, but Trip, we're going to begin with you here. Certainly, the mayor's endorsement here made this, maybe an outside challenge to a real heated contest.
What the mayor is really saying here is that if you stood with me on day one, in this case, the New York City DSA, they stood with him in October 2024 when he was polling around 0% for mayor. He is going to have their back. And so he is vocally behind Daria Liza in New York 13, as well as Claire Valdez in New York 7. Look, I will say this. I believe Adriano is someone who is a slight favorite in this race. Daria Liza, as a congressional candidate, is not nearly as polished as Mamdani was last year. She has some troubling tweets. I don't know if her initial reaction to those tweets, she came off a little bit defensive. I don't know if it was as effective. She is not as good as a candidate as Mayor Mamdani was. Right. And so I give Adriano...
Get in here on this, yeah.
Man, give me a break. Adriano Espaillat is the chairman of the Hispanic Caucus. He's been representing that district for a generation, since 1996. First Dominican ever elected to Congress. The man has built block by block by block work in that district to get 12 new schools. I mean, incredible work. And he's facing a primary from someone who's new on the block, who has no experience, never led anything, never has done anything. We don't know who this person is. But the only reason this is even close is because the Democratic Party has become a cult of personality. If Mayor Mamdani does not support her, she doesn't register. The truth of the matter is that there's no reason in the world why Adriano Espaillat, another one, you go to the dictionary, you look for powerful Democrat, there is Adriano Espaillat.
But there's an anti-incumbent sentiment here. It's not just the mayor.
That's a mistake in thinking. And as someone who studies this carefully, there is no anti-incumbent sentiment in that district. Do you know why? Because when you take a look at the assembly members there, when you take a look at the council members there, when you take a look at the state senators there is no primary race that's registering. So what anti-incumbent sentiment exists there? There isn't one. What you're seeing is a cult of personality, and my goodness, this is something... How so?
Robert Jackson.
Oh, there's no real primary.
Let's let Trip get in. Let's let Trip get in.
Adriano. So that's my political uncle right here. We can debate anytime. Okay. My political big brother, I should say. But look, Robert Jackson has been on the opposite side of Adriano for a long time. There's a contested race in central Harlem as well on the assembly side. And so look, it is a close race. I do think Adriano is the favorite. I actually agree with you on a lot of your points. What I will say is that Mayor Mamdani has put a lot of political capital into this race, so he has to see Daria Liza at least come close.
And this is the one he didn't need to. The fight that he picked first and foremost is our next race, New York 7. He picked Claire Valdez, an assembly member, DSA, there with him on day one. has at least some electoral experience, but he made that choice over Antonio Reynoso, the very popular Brooklyn borough president. He also ruffled the feathers of retiring Congress member Nydia Velázquez here. So what do you make of this race, JC?
This was something he didn't have to do. Nydia Velázquez legitimized the assembly member in Queens when she endorsed him for mayor, especially with the Latino community. Nydia Velázquez is important for us Latinos. She's the first Puerto Rican woman ever elected to Congress. I wrote my college term paper 30 years ago on her. So it's important that you realize how important she was to the Latino community. To see him, the mayor, come out and support someone with very little experience, 1 year in the assembly, and who just got here against a two-term borough president, two-term city council member, a former chairman of several committees on the city council, incredible candidate in Reynoso, is something that I think, win or lose, people will not forget.
Tripp, this one seems like it will be the real litmus test of his power because the Daria Lisa endorsement came later. He's not endorsing in 12. You know, the Lander endorsement we all knew was coming. This is the one where he's pushing, with all due respect to the assembly member Valdez, a relative complete unknown. Am I correct in reading that?
Yeah, look, in any other race, Reynoso would have won this race a long time ago. JC's right that Nydia is an absolute trailblazer. Reynoso has a record of accomplishment as a borough president and council member before that. He has the vast majority of organizations like Working Families Party, labor unions, elected officials. The only reason this is a very watched race is because the mayor has put so much of his political capital here. Those of us, you know, in my day job, I run a political strategy firm. You know, those of us who work in this business, we know that the mayor had been making a lot of calls to progressive organizations and labor unions for months, pushing them to back Valdez. And so it is a contested race because of this. It is as close to a 50-50 jump ball as you can get.
I got to get a quick answer on 12 here. We got Michael Lasher, Alex Boris, Jack Schlossberg. We got George Conway. It's been a packed full car here. Who you got, JC, real quick?
I got Michael Asher. I think this is the thriller in Manila. You don't see open seats for Congress much, but I think he has the edge.
Tripp,
There's two close candidates, Lasher and Boris. They both would be good. I lean Lasher because he has more independent expenditure funding, and usually the West Side votes more than the East Side. But Boris has run a great campaign.
I think the most important thing is that we get all those AI ads off our phones and tablets and TV.
Inshallah. I can't wait.
Yeah. Thank you both. Tripp, JC, thank you so much.